The hallways of the elementary school in Nashville buzzed with excitement on the first Monday morning of the new school year as children rushed between classrooms carrying oversized backpacks while proud parents snapped photos near colorful bulletin boards decorated with welcome signs and fresh paint. But among the sea of clean uniforms and brand new sneakers, 10-year-old Ava Reynolds walked quietly beside her grandmother wearing a faded denim jacket and a pair of white canvas shoes completely covered in hand-painted drawings because across the sides of the sneakers were tiny mountains, blue skies, fishing boats, sunflowers, and handwritten phrases in uneven black marker, all painted carefully by Ava herself during the final weeks of summer after losing her father Ben Reynolds in a tragic construction accident 6 months earlier. Since before he died, Ben had promised Ava they would spend the summer painting matching shoes together for her first day of 5th grade, and although he never got the chance to keep that promise, Ava stayed up late many nights finishing both pairs alone using her father's old paint brushes while secretly believing that every color she added somehow kept part of him close to her heart. And that morning, as she nervously stepped into school, she carried more pride in those imperfect sneakers than anything else she owned, until whispers slowly began spreading among several adults standing near the front office because, unlike the expensive spotless shoes worn by many other children, Ava's sneakers looked messy, handmade, and unusual. While one parent quietly muttered that the shoes looked trashy and another complained they violated dress expectations for the school, while Ava pretended not to hear the comments even though every word landed painfully inside her chest, because children often survive grief silently while adults forget how carefully they listen. And later that afternoon things became even worse when a teacher gently pulled Ava aside after hearing complaints from parents asking whether she owned another pair of shoes more appropriate for class photos later that week. And although the teacher tried speaking kindly, Ava immediately looked down at the painted sneakers as tears filled her eyes, because to everyone else they were only shoes, but to her they were the final unfinished memory of the father she missed every single day. And when Ava returned home, she quietly locked herself inside her bedroom, refusing dinner, while her grandmother Sandra discovered the child sitting on the floor clutching one sneaker tightly against her chest, crying hard enough to barely breathe. And after hearing what happened at school, Sandra felt something inside her completely break, because she knew exactly how much those shoes meant to Ava, since she had watched the little girl paint them night after night beside old family photographs, trying desperately to hold on to the father grief had stolen too soon. And the next morning Sandra made a decision that would unexpectedly change the entire school, because instead of forcing Ava to wear different shoes, she drove her granddaughter directly back to campus wearing her late son Ben's old work jacket while carrying a framed photograph of Ava and her father painting together during happier times, before calmly requesting permission to speak during the school's morning assembly. And as hundreds of students and parents gathered inside the gym, Sandra stepped onto the stage beside Ava before quietly explaining the true story behind the painted sneakers, describing how Ben Reynolds spent years working dangerous construction jobs to provide for his family while never missing a single father-daughter event, and how before his sudden death he promised Ava they would create matching painted shoes together for her first day of school. While the entire gym slowly fell silent, listening to the trembling voice of a grieving mother defending the memory of her son. And by the time Sandra finished speaking, many teachers and parents were openly crying, while Ava stood frozen beside her, unable to believe anyone finally understood. And then something unexpected happened, because one teacher slowly stepped forward wearing her own pair of old hand-painted sneakers, followed by another student, then another, until dozens of children and adults throughout the gym began removing shoes or showing customized artwork they had hidden from embarrassment, because Ava's story reminded everyone how cruel the world becomes when people judge pain they cannot see. And by the end of the assembly, the principal announced that the school would officially hold a Paint Your Story event, encouraging students to express memories, emotions, and family experiences through art instead of hiding what made them different. While later that afternoon Ava walked through the hallways again, still wearing the exact same painted sneakers, except this time children smiled at her, teachers complimented the artwork, and several parents apologized quietly for judging something they never tried to understand. And that evening, as Ava sat on the front porch beside her grandmother watching the sunset, she looked down at the colorful shoes one more time before softly whispering, "I think Dad would have liked today," while Sandra wrapped an arm around her shoulders, knowing some memories survive not because people refuse to let go, but because love deserves to be carried proudly no matter who misunderstands it.